Hey folks, Ryan here from Mista Rau Gaming, and I'm here to teach you how to play Guild Academies of Valeria, published by Daily Magic Games, designed by Stan Kordonskiy, and with art by the one and only the Mico. In Guild Academies of Valeria, we are rivaling academies, trying to draw in the best students, get the best professors, teach those students, get them some knowledge so that hopefully they will have enough knowledge so that they eventually will graduate and finally go on some quests, all in the name of victory points, of course. Hopefully we can recruit the help of some of our headmasters, some of our ministers of education and stuff like that. So join me at the table. I am going to teach us how to play Guild Academies of Valeria. And of course, if you are enjoying the content on this channel, please decide to hit a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And that notification bell is there to get notified every time that a new video comes out and when I go live on Tuesday evenings. All right, let's switch on over to the game area board where I've got everything all set up for a two-player game of Guild Academies of Valeria. Setup in this game is actually not that bad. We've got a stack of these, I believe they refer to these as town classroom tiles. We've got the stack of these academy classroom tiles, and we've got a stack of these prestige or prestigious classroom tiles, which, you know, there are a set of tiles that are for just like every single game, and then there's a stack that I've got in the box that are for 3 and 4 players because they are denoted with 3+ on the tiles. So you just take those stacks, you shuffle them up, and then you'll deal them into their each side of the board, leaving a massive stack face up in each of their own designated areas. There is a whole bunch of other things to kind of lay out. Let's take a look at the top side of the board here where we've got these favor tokens. And again, there's a nice big stack of them. You kind of shuffle them up, deal out 4, and leave a big face-up stack here. And we've got these monument tokens where you have the big old stack of them again. You shuffle that up, you deal a few of them face-up forward. At the bottom side of the board here, we do have our quest piles, which are all denoted by guild on the back here. So here is the Holy Guild, and they are arranged in ascending point values. The top one's worth 2 points, 3 points, 5 points, 7 points, and all of the different guilds. The Shadow Guild are set up exactly the same. The Soldier Guild is set up the exact same, and the Workers Guild is set up exactly the same. From the draw bag of Professor, you'll put, I believe there's a chart inside the rule book where in a 2-player game we have 5 of each professor type that is put inside the bag. We have put, you know, a lineup of 5 of them already in this area of the board. And of course, we also have a big old bag of students, which are represented by these dice. And these students are all going to get drawn in a 2-player game. Or actually, for any player game, it is always 1 for each player of the game plus 1. So in a 2-player game, we have 3 dice in each, or sorry, 3 students, I should say, in each of these. You'll pick 3 of them. You'll roll them. You actually have to roll them, and then you'll place them into each of the dock areas. For player setups, it's actually really quite simple. I'll go over to my player board over here. Everybody's going to have a magic token that you'll set to 3, a gold token that you'll set to 6. Everybody's got this headmaster professor token. They are a different color. They act as a wild professor, and then you'll also draw 1 random from the bag, and you'll also draw 2 students randomly from the bag, and you'll set them to their 4 value side. And of course, everybody is also going to draw 1 random academy classroom tile and add it to their academy in a random spot. Or I guess it's not random, you get to choose exactly where to put it. And then you'll randomly determine who is going to be the first player, and you'll put the first player marker on their player board, and they'll collect all of their player token pieces, like their quest tokens, their, I believe these are referred to as the quest tokens. You got their stewards, and you also got their banners, and everybody's going to collect their own set of those. And that's the setup for Guild Academies of Valeria. Let's go into exactly how is a game going to end up playing out. Well, a game is going to actually get played out over a series of phases. There are 4 rounds to the game. There is this little, there's this round tracker, and then each corner of the board is a different round. As soon as you get to round 4, that's going to be the last round of the game. And every round is divided into essentially 4 phases, with the 4th phase being more of a kind of a cleanup style phase. But the first phase is what referred to as, I've already forgotten what the name is exactly. They call it the recruitment phase. I got my little study note here. And the recruitment phase is actually going to take place in this bottom section of the board where the students are actually coming to the various academies. And so you can see, so many of the docks have students in them. In this phase, the players are going to be taking, in player turn order, they're going to be taking their steward tokens and they're going to be assigning them to the docks in order to take either a dock action or a banking action. And optionally, they can take a bonus action at some point in time during their turn, either at the beginning, middle, or even at the very end of their turn. They can take one of these bonus actions, and I'll get to what those are in a little bit. So player will take their steward token and they will place it in a dock where they have not already put a steward token. You've got 3 of them and there's 4 docks. So there's going to be one of the docks that you will not be activating each particular round. So let's go through them. I'm going to start off with the ones on the far edges over here because they operate very similarly. So I will place down my steward here, and in the Castellan dock, what you would do, actually in all of the docks, if you actually want to take the dock action, whichever student you want to take or draft into your academy, you have to pay that amount of gold. So in this case, if I were to take this shadow student, it's got a value of 4, I would actually have to pay 4 gold, and then I would actually be able to take the Castellan dock action. And the Castellan dock action here is that we actually get to put one of the face-up town classroom tiles into our academy. And these tiles will do a range of a variety of things for us. But essentially, you kind of want them so that you can activate them later on in what's referred to as the education phase in order to get points, gold, or magic, or knowledge, or possibly some sort of combination of all of those different things. So let's just say we did that and we're going to take a classroom tile. Let's just say we ended up taking this particular town classroom tile and we're going to add it to our board. Where are you going to place it? Well, you can place it anywhere along the bottom of your board. I'm just going to move these bags along the way. I can add it on top, beside, anyway. But kind of something that you want to pay attention to is you kind of want to pay attention to maybe placing them so that you can complete these pedestals. Because as soon as you complete a pedestal, notice that it's a perfectly circular object, you'll actually be able to take one of these monument tokens to put onto one of those pedestals, as long as it's completely surrounded and making a complete circle. And these monuments do a variety of different things. Most of them will grant a actual one-time bonus action. Like in this case, this would grant you 2 knowledge points that you can apply to your students, or get yourself 2 magic, or get yourself 4 gold. Or some of them actually have guilds on them, like this one has worker guilds. They have the worker guild symbol and a worker guild professor on it, and you can essentially add those symbols to your player board, or your academy, and essentially they'll be worth as long as you can use them for scoring your prestige tiles at the end of the game. So that's kind of one way or one reason why you want to actually complete those pedestals. And so that is the Castellan dock action. You pay the gold on the student that you drafted. And I guess I didn't mention, as soon as you draft the student here, you would actually put them into your garden area into the next available spot, keeping the value that you drafted them from. Now, in the other side over here, we have the benefactor dock action, which will operate the same. You'll draft a student, pay the gold on that student, and then you're able to claim one of the academy classroom tiles here, and there's a much bigger variety of these, and they also do various effects where you have to assign, say, professors or students in order to gain different bonuses, like, again, gold, magic, points, knowledge points, or even some actions that will actually manipulate your students. Like this action, like right here, this one actually lets you flip one of your students to its opposite side. And again, you'll place them into your academy, trying to maybe complete pedestals or certain game effects or certain, prestige tiles, or even certain headmasters here are actually going to be able to score points depending on where you've placed your classroom tiles in your academy. Now coming back to the bottom, there's two other actions that we haven't talked about here. The fountain dock, next one. Again, if I were to draft a student and I paid its gold price, I would actually be able to draft a professor from one of the ones in the lineup here. I'd be able to draft that professor, put them into my area right here with my other professors, and I would also be able to, as it says right here, I would also be able to get 2 knowledge points to apply to my students right away. And those students can either be in classrooms or in your garden area. And if it's in this phase, most likely those students are in your garden area. So you just apply 2 knowledge points. Let's talk about applying knowledge points. If I got 2 knowledge points, I could either assign them to one particular student and changing that student from a 4 value to a 6 value. Or I could actually take those 2 knowledge points and I can split them amongst various students. Like this, I could increase them both each to a 5. Why do you want to increase the values of your students? Well, you want to increase your values of your students so that they actually get above the value of 6. Once they get to a 6, they still need that 1 extra knowledge point to get above 6. And once they go above 6, they're going to go into your graduation area. And that's where they're actually going to be very useful in the later phase, which is referred to as the questing phase. So you want graduate students in there to do your questing. And the last dock action that you can take is what's referred to as the ministry dock action. Again, draft a student, pay the gold for them, and you'll actually get 2 different actions here. One of the actions is you get to draft a favor tile. So one of these tiles we set up at the beginning of the game, which will grant you some sort of bonus. Again, you can apply that bonus right away, or you can save that tile for a use on a later turn. And they do also a variety of different things, like gaining 6 gold and flipping a die to its opposite side. Pay a magic and put a monument tile where you don't have it all completely surrounded. Draw a professor from the bag and get 2 knowledge points. And also get another dice from the bag and get a knowledge point. There are a lot of really good ones there. And then the very last thing that this ministry dock action will let you do is actually get to take a banner action. Right now on your player board, you actually have 3 banners here. And that's where they're going to start. And when you take a banner action, you can take one, and then you can come to the top of the board and assign it to one of these ministers. The very first time that it comes off your player board, it has to be assigned to one of the lower ministers here, and those are ones in the green robes. And these definitely give you some game-breaking effects. Essentially, the ones on the sides over here, this one right here will allow you to take the Castellan dock action at a 2 gold discount. And this one over here will allow you to take the benefactor dock action at a 2 gold discount. And this one right here will allow you to take the fountain dock action as a $2 discount. The other ones here, this one, which is associated with Shadow Guild, this one with Worker Guild, this one with a Holy Guild, and this one with Soldier Guild, they essentially allow your professors and students of that particular guild to be wild during the education phase when they're getting placed into their classrooms. The 4 in the middle up at the top here will allow those particular guild dice to actually be wild during the questing phase, and they are wild for 1 quest, not multiple quests, but just you can assign them as wild to 1 particular quest. So for the Soldier Guild, the Shadow Guild, the Worker Guild, and the Holy Guild. So banner actions, if they come off of your player board, they have to be assigned to one of these lower ministers. If later on I get another banner action through some other game effect, I can either move this banner within its zone, or if it's in the lower council, I can, when I get a banner action, I would actually be able to actually jump it into the high council here in the upper ministers, and they are all worth end of game victory points for their various whatever they describe. And there's a really good appendix in the rule book that describes exactly how they all different score. For example, every classroom tile that you have that produces magic as a bonus, you get 1 point for every one of those tiles. And on the opposite side, you can get 1 point for every classroom tile that produces gold as a reward for taking its action. This one right here gets you 1 point for every monument token that you have. And then the other ones refer to mostly, this one over here is sets of 3 of the same type of professor that you have in your academy. 3 points for every set of 3 that you have. And then the other ones have to do with tile placements in your academy. For example, this one is contiguous lines of double guild tiles. There are some guilds like this one, you can kind of just see off in the corner here, has 2 guild symbols on it. So if this one has a contiguous areas of double guild tiles, you get 2 points per tile. This one, if I'm having a hard time reading it here, but I believe this is adjacent tiles that don't have the same symbol. This is 1 point for every tile that has one guild icon on it. This one's 3 points if you manage to get a column of 4 tiles. So for every column of 4 tiles, you can get 3 points. This one over here, I believe, is the contiguous line of the same icons. Same guild icons in each of the tiles. So essentially that is, and again, they are described in great detail on the in the player book. So again, banner action, if they are coming off of your player board, they go into the lower council. Further banner actions can allow you to move your banner within that particular council, or a banner action can make you go from the lower council into the higher council. And you've got 3 banner tokens to work with. So at some point in time, you'll probably fill up the lower council, and then at some point in time, you're going to want to move them to that higher council in order to be worth victory points at the end of the game. Coming back to the bottom, so those are the 4 dock actions, and again, you only got 3 stewards, so you're only going to be able to place 3 of them down there, essentially leaving 1 of them. At the end of your turn, make sure that you refill anything that you've claimed. So if you've claimed a professor, you slide everybody down and you refill the professors, or if you've taken any of the favor tiles or monument tiles, make sure you refill the lines at the end of your turn, or any classroom tiles as well that have you refilled at the end of your turn. Also, if I was not able to actually pay for my student, let's just say I really wanted this 6 value holy student right here in this dock action, but I didn't have enough gold in order to draft them. Instead, I could probably take a banking action. I could still take the student. I won't be taking the dock action, but instead I'll actually be getting some gold instead. You start off with a base value of 8 and then subtract whatever the value of that die was. So for example, I actually could take this 1 and I could go 8 minus 1, which is 7. I could just take this die into my garden and then I would get 7 gold as my banking action. And you can do that with any one of the docks. As long if you don't want to take that particular action, you have to then take a banking action. You can't just not take an action during this phase. And then, of course, I mentioned at any time, either before, during, or after you've taken your dock or banking action, you can take one of the bonus actions that's listed in the middle here. You could pay 2 gold to get 1 magic, or you could pay 1 magic to get 2 gold. You can only do that once. You could pay 4 gold to take a banner action, just like how I described with the Ministry Dock action. Or you can pay 6 gold and take yourself a favor tile. And again, you can do that every time that it comes around to your turn to place down one of your steward tokens. And that's the recruitment phase. Everybody's going to perform that in player order. And then once everybody's placed their 3 steward tokens and taken their 3 recruitment phase actions, you are then going to move on into the education phase. And in the education phase, this is where you're actually going to be able to take the students that you have drafted and the professors that you have drafted and assign them to classrooms in order to get their various benefits. So in this case, right now I'm only starting off with 1 tile, but let's just say I did have a few. Let's just say I'm just going to give myself a couple students here. Let's say I'm going to give myself that one here. I could activate my classroom tile by assigning its matching professor and students. Now you have to pay attention because some of them will actually describe a particular value that you're going to need, or specific students from a specific guild that you're going to need, or if they're ever just a black die, then you can be any student from any guild can go into there. So for this one, for example, I would need a worker guild professor, a worker guild student, and a holy guild student in order to activate that particular tile. Your headmaster here can be wild and can go on to in place of any professor for during this phase. You do have 2 printed classrooms on your player board. It's administrative studies and hospitality studies. This one would just require any professor and any student. It gets you a knowledge point and 2 gold. This one requires any professor and 2 students, and this one gets you 2 knowledge and a magic. So for example, in this case, maybe I was satisfied with my placements in this phase. I could have assigned this headmaster and this student over here as part of this phase as well. But let's just say in this particular example, I was okay with the placements of all my things. After you've done all of your placements, you're going to gain a few bonuses. For example, every unused professor that you have not assigned will actually gain you 1 gold. So in this case, I could gain myself an extra gold for leaving that professor unassigned. And for any unassigned students, you just want to make sure that you slide them as far down and to the right as possible in your garden area, and you'll actually gain the bonuses, whatever's left uncovered. So in this case, I would actually gain 3 gold and 1 magic as a bonus. So if I actually decided I wanted to move that professor there and move this student into that classroom, I would actually, as bonuses, I would not get any extra gold because I have no leftover professors. And since I have no students assigned, I would actually get 3 gold, a magic, and a victory point in this case. Once everybody's assigned their professors and their students to their classrooms, then you actually get to evaluate your bonuses. So in this case, he would get my 2 gold and a knowledge point, and that knowledge point has to be applied to the student that is in that classroom. So for example, 5. This one will move up to a 5. And in this one here, I would actually get 2 more gold. I would get 2 victory points, and I also get 2 knowledge points. And those 2 knowledge points can be applied to 1 student, or they can be split amongst each of the students that are inside of that classroom. So for example, this time I say I'll just apply the 2 and I'll go to this 6. As soon as you've taken all of your bonuses during this phase, you can now spend magic, and this is where magic's going to come into play. You can spend magic to increase the knowledge level of your students inside of your classrooms. Not in your garden area, students inside of your classrooms. For example, I could spend another magic here, and I could actually change this student from the 6. Since I'm going higher than a 6, this student would actually graduate for me. I just flip him to a 1, and I put him in this graduation area. And so maybe this is another way that I can actually get my students into that graduation area. So for example, maybe I'm going to spend another 2 gold, 1 to a 6 and 1 to graduate, and I can actually graduate this student as well. And where is you? There it is. And there we go. That would be the end of my education phase, as long as I've taken all of my bonuses. any leftover students and professors, they would stay exactly where they are. And everybody would now do this. They recommend that you do this in turn order for your first couple games. And once everybody's kind of familiar with the game and the game system, everybody can be doing this phase simultaneously. After the education phase is all done, then we're going to move into the questing phase. And in the questing phase, this is where you're going to be able to take, you can take your graduate students and you can assign them to go on quests. And in this case, we've got quests according to each of the guilds. There's the Holy Gold, the Holy Guild, the Shadow, the Soldier, and the Workers. And they all start off fairly simple. For example, this one just needs a Holy graduate and any other graduate. And they get you 1 magic and 2 victory points, 1 Shadow graduate and any other graduate, 2 knowledge, which then that knowledge can be applied to anybody that's in your garden or in your classrooms, potentially graduating them to be used in the questing phase right now. Soldier Guild, Soldier graduate and any other graduate gets you to flip a die and 2 victory points. And in the Workers Guild, you actually get 2 gold and 2 points as long as you have a worker graduate and any other graduate. Once you complete them, you'll actually just you'll spend yours. So like, for example, over here, I actually have a Holy graduate and another graduate. So I'd actually be able to assign them to this particular quest, which I would actually just take these dice. I would actually add them back to the student bag, and I'd place down one of my quest markers onto this particular quest. And everybody else, you're going to do this in player order. Assigning people, your opponents can complete the same quest that you are on. So there is no limit to the number of quest tokens that can be put on a quest. You just can't fulfill that same quest twice yourself. So let's just say after a particular round of questing, maybe I was able to actually get a second quest, and I have 2 quest markers, and my opponent has 1 quest marker down. We would spend our graduates, we would put them back into the student dice bag, and then we see how many quest tokens were we able to do. For example, for us, we did 2 in this case, so I would actually take my quest marker here and I would actually move it 2 spaces, and my opponent would move 1 space for completing its 1 quest. As soon as you're able to get into one of these areas, notice that you're going to get a banner action. So again, taking a banner from your player board and putting it up into the lower council, or moving your banners amongst those council members. And then you also get to draft a prestige tile, which you get to take one of these purple prestige tiles, add them to your board, much like the Castellan dock action and the Benefactor dock action. Except for these tiles, notice that some of them have guild icons, but all of them will provide you with end of game victory point conditions. And there's a whole schwackload of variety of them. Luckily, the game does come with a few nice little player aid boards that you can actually use to reference in most of the all of the icons that you're going to find across all of those different tiles. And again, if you complete a pedestal, you're going to be able to claim a monument token to put onto your academy board. So everybody's going to do that questing. And then after everybody's done doing their questing, then we're going to go into the last phase, which is referred to as the restoration phase. And in the restoration phase, what we are going to do is we're going to do a lot of kind of like cleanup and kind of moving things around. For example, I'm just going to go to the top down area here. The bottom of each of the tracks here, so in this case of the academy classrooms, the bottom 2 are going to go away. The bottom town classroom is going to go away, and the bottom prestige tile is going to go away, and those ones will all then shift down, and we would refill just like so. Whoop. And these ones would move down, and this one would refill, and these ones would move down, and this one would also refill. The favor tokens, the bottom one gets discarded, and then again we would refill. The monument tokens, the bottom one gets discarded, and again we would refill. The professor tokens, the two rightmost professors get discarded and they would refill. And you would draw the remaining ones from the bag. For the students, the ones that were not drafted, they all get discarded and put back into the student bag. And then we would then draw new students to refill all of the docks based on your player count again, one for each player plus one. Then you'd return any of these quest markers back to the players of their chosen colors, and any of these quests that actually had quest markers on them, they would get discarded, revealing the next quest for that particular guild. Any steward tokens that were in the docks get returned back to their players, and whichever player was the lowest on the lowest on the score track at this point, they will now get the first player token. And they would, let's say if that was my opponent, they would now get the first player token. And then we would move the round marker to the second round. And then you start off the next round in player order, taking the recruitment actions down at the docks. You're going to do that for 4 rounds, and after the 4th round, there is no restoration phase. Rather, you just go straight into final scoring after the last round. And after the last quest phase, what you're going to do is you will add to your victory points for your prestige tiles, and if you had any banners in that upper high council, you would add your victory points from those conditions. Player with the most victory points is going to be the winner. And, oh gosh, maybe if I would have looked at that ahead of time, they do have a tiebreaker because, well, from what my experience is, the games can be quite a little bit tight. If there is a tie for the high score, the tied player with the most monument chits on their academy is the winner. If the tie persists, a school rivalry is born. And that is how you play Guild Academies of Valeria. Join me in my next video where I'm actually going to be doing a full solo playthrough if you would like to figure out exactly how the game is going to work and work with a solo automa. It's actually a very easy, very smooth solo automa player to play with. All right, folks. I've been Ryan of Mista Rau's Gaming. If you enjoyed this how to play video and you would like to see other how to play videos, please consider putting a like on this video, subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, and that notification bell is there to get notified when new videos come out onto the channel and when I go live on Tuesday evenings. All right, folks, have yourselves a great day, afternoon, evening when you decided to watch this video, and as always, thanks for watching. See you all later. Cheers.